You're listening to a podcast appearing on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
This is the weekly Firecast, episode 28, interview with Jack Waiboer of GrateTV.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and BBQer, Scott Roberts.
And welcome to all the chili heads and barbecuers out there. I am Scott Roberts, returning after a little sabbatical. Well, it wasn't a sabbatical. I had a nasty flu. It was very difficult to talk. These kind of little breaks have just kind of popped up over the last couple winters. Really bad, but I'm almost up to 100%, and I'm ready to give you another great podcast episode. And a special guest of this episode is someone I've been wanting to get for the longest time. And as you may have heard me say before, I've long been a big fan of podcasts since 2005. I'd actually gotten into technology podcasting because I used to be a website developer. But since then, since I've gotten into the whole fiery foods and barbecue world, I'd scoured the internet for the best podcasts, the best shows on the types of food I love. And while I think the Barbecue Central radio show is the best audio podcast on barbecue, one of perhaps maybe my 2 or 3 favorite video shows on the web on barbecue and grilling is something called GrateTV. I'm sure many of you are already fans of it, but it started off several years ago called Meatheads TV. And for better or worse, they changed the name. Anyway, it's hosted by a couple of great guys from South Carolina. One is Billy West of BBQtricks.com, and the other is Jack Waiboer. Now, I've had it in my mind to get Jack on the podcast, like I said, for the longest time. His credentials run long. Not only is he one of the co-hosts of GrateTV, but he started the Carolina Pitmasters Barbecue Cooking School. He's been a 3-time South Carolina State Barbecue Champion. He's heavily involved in the Southern BBQ Network, and he is also the Pitmaster at Kraft Foods. So in the field, as interesting and varied as barbecue is, with a lot of great hardworking people, he is no exception. And I just talked to him about all kinds of things. That lengthy, extended interview is later in this podcast. I also continue my new segment with chili head blogger and writer Ken Alexander. And in his new segment called Ken's Fiery World, he talks a little bit of his opinions on reviewing in general. And then I give my foodie tip of the week. And then the review product of the week is the Chesterville Pepper Company's Fistful of Pineapple Hot Sauce. Now I'll get to all those segments here in just a minute. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to give everybody an update on the Ultimate Hot Sauce Showdown, which is my March Madness style throwdown, of a way for people to vote for their favorite hot sauces. Now, I had some nominations. It probably was a month or 2 ago. It's taken me a while to compile all the nominees for it, but I'm going to try to get to them this coming week and start the head-to-head matches. And it's something I plan to do through the rest of March and April of this year, in 2013. And a last bit of housekeeping, I wanted to remind everyone to tune into the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network, which the weekly Firecast is a very proud part of. I'm the co-host of a couple other podcasts on that network. One that's going on right now is chronicling the new Kevin Bacon TV series on Fox called The Following. We go through it episode by episode every single week and critique the episode, give both the goods and the bads about it. And believe it or not, just in another couple months here in June, Dexter on Showtime will be premiering its 8th and final season. Now, I'm also the co-host of the podcast, both of those podcasts, both for The Following and the Dexter podcast. I co-host with Mike Wilkerson. So if you're a big Dexter fan, be sure to tune into that. And we have also reviewed the previous probably 3.5 seasons of Dexter, stretching back to part of season 4. So if you love Dexter or are a big fan of it, and maybe you've just been a little disappointed in the episode quality of late, of the past couple years, Be sure to go back and listen to our reviews. Great entertainment all around. Anyway, that's it. So as I always say, that's enough chit-chatting. Let's get to the weekly segments.
And now, the Foodie Tip of the Week.
My foodie tip this week is when grilling, only cook once on each side. Yes, I know when you have your steaks and burgers and chops and chicken fillets and everything, it's really tempting to grab the meat with your tongs, your spatula. You flip it over several times. You keep smashing it, mashing it. The thing to do is let it rest. Put it on one side, let it be. Do your investigation beforehand, know how many minutes it takes to cook it, and then when it's done on that one side, flip it over to the other side, and don't mess with it again until it's done cooking. It's very, very simple. And I know especially with burgers and things like that, you're just tempted to mash the hell out of it. No, don't do that. It's going to remove so many of the delicious and moisturizing juices in the meat. It's going to make your meat more dry. So just let it be, let it cook perfectly, and I have more appetizing and juicier meat that way. Very simple, but very, very effective.
And now, the review of the week.
My product review this week is the Chesterville Pepper Company's Fistful of Pineapple Dorset Naga Pepper Hot Sauce. This baby is another little interesting number. I'm a big fan of sweet and heat, not only towards the dessert realm, but regular hot sauces too. Now, don't get me wrong, I love all kinds of flavor profiles. I love sauces that are tangy, vinegary, smoky, peppery, garlicky, you name it. But when you have a really good fruit-based hot sauce, my ears perk up and my stomach starts to growl, mouth starts to water, yada yada. I think you get the point. So here's another one I really wanted to try. Now, the Chesterville Pepper Company is owned by Tina Tillman. She's based out of Indiana and makes a slew of different fiery foods products. Now, this one in particular, the ingredients are pineapple, garlic powder, cider vinegar, ginger, brown sugar, soy sauce, and dried Dorset Naga peppers. Of course, if you're not familiar with the Dorset Naga, very closely related to the Buchalocus, those peppers could really pack some heat punch, and potentially so could the sauce. Now, appearance-wise, this is a very, very dark yellow. As a matter of fact, it's more of a tan color, getting close to brown. It's extremely thick, just the way I like it. I like really thick sauces, almost to the point where it's hard to get out of the bottle, but it's not. Reminds me of a good, thick, pulpy applesauce that's dark. Aroma-wise, yep, you definitely pick up on the pineapple a little bit of a kind of nondescript peppery smell, and a little bit of garlic as well. Now, upon tasting it, it is definitely sweet. Definitely pineapple is at the forefront. And there's some nice supporting roles with the ginger and the brown sugar in this. But there's quite a bit of garlic powder to kind of pull this towards the savory end of things, believe it or not. And for better or worse, it kind of makes this a unique pineapple sauce. It's not the kind of straightforward pineapple sauce that would be great on crackers and cream cheese. It's a little bit too savory for that. But when you start thinking of light meats, chicken, fish, bingo, this does the trick on those. And the sauce, despite the fact that it has Dorset Naga peppers, is not too terribly hot. And I say that from a chili head's perspective. If you're just a regular barbecue fan, if you could only take a little bit of heat, this would probably give you a nice long burn. Extreme chili heads, though, would find this somewhere in the medium range. So it depends on your heat tolerance. So your mileage may vary. I did not find it extremely hot, but there was just enough of the heat to give it a nice, comfortable warmth. Probably around 2.5 to 3 on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being hottest on a heat scale. Flavor-wise, I've tasted better pineapple sauces, and I could probably recommend 5 over this one. But this still is a very worthy effort. Something to keep in my fridge, something to bring out every now and then when I want that kind of pineapple punch with some really high-end garlic kick. And the supporting roles from the brown sugar, ginger, does a fairly fine job. As a matter of fact, with the ginger, makes it also good with some Chinese, if you'd have some chicken or rice. Does a pretty good job. So overall, on a flavor scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, this would clock in at a solid 3. So worthy effort from the Chesterville Pepper Company. So if you're interested in checking out the sauce, simply go to the Chesterville Pepper Company and the word company is spelled out, .com, or just look for the show notes for this particular episode at weeklyfirecast.com and click there. It'll take you right to there. So again, this is the Chesterville Pepper Company's Fistful of Pineapple. Pretty good stuff.
And now, Ken's Fiery World.
And here we are with one of our newer segments, Ken's Fiery World, where I talk to Louisiana-based chili head blogger and reviewer Ken Alexander. How's everything going tonight with you, Ken?
Hey, doing great, Scott. How are you?
Oh, great as always. What do you have for us tonight?
Well, I thought, when our first segment was kind of giving my background and kind of where I came up and to become a chili head, and I thought since some of your listeners may not be familiar with my reviews, and if they're not, they can go to YouTube and search Ken Alexander, I Love It Spicy. All of my video reviews have been done through Voodoo Goldenberg's site, I Love It Spicy, or my blog, fieryworld.com. But kind of give them a flavor for actually what I do when I get a sauce or I get a product and kind of prepping for a review and how I work the review process. Mm-hmm. And for me, and I mentioned this kind of in the tag and the tease and at the end of our last segment, that, makers and a lot of what we get, as reviewers are from the small batch makers and, the more kind of gourmet level sauces, and they're wanting honest feedback. And they put out and send us product, and sometimes I do reviews from products that I buy outright. But oftentimes it's like yourself and others, we get products sent in the mail to us. And so I kind of look at it from the perspective of what's I look at their labeling, I look at consistency, I look at aroma, I look at flavor, heat, versatility, and I'll kind of come back to those points, and try to give a full rounded perspective of a product for a manufacturer, for a maker. One of the first things I look at is what's the viability of this. And I was in Pepper Palace in New Orleans. They have a new franchise down in the French Quarter right across from Café du Monde, if you know that, near Jackson Square. And you go through and you see all these novelty sauces and the labels and all of this. And people buy for different reasons. But the first thing they do is they look for visual appeal. And oftentimes that's going to hit a label. It's like, we all know grocery stores, the products that are at eye level are the most expensive to place on a shelf for a grocery store, and that's the ones that they want you to buy. And I think in hot sauce, the look of a label is as important, because if it's a new product and you want to entice somebody to buy it, they've got to have something that appeals to them. And that's going to be the actual look of the product, the description, and the labeling. Is the label clean? Is the label appropriate? Does it describe the product? Is it catchy? One of the, a couple that come to mind are Johnny McLaughlin's. I know in your last segment, in the last podcast, that you had, the interview with Johnny, which was an outstanding interview, by the way. I really enjoyed it. But Johnny uses artwork to kind of entice somebody to look. And in the hot sauce community, tattoo looking artwork is appealing. And so I think that was smart on his part. I think another smart labeling concept is Jeremy Walsh at Big Fats. Very simple, very plain, very easy to see, very consistent look. He numbers his products, and then he puts a descriptor underneath the number, but it's something that's easy to remember, and it's something that catches the eye, and it has a nice professional look to it. And I think, that's important for a buyer when they're going into a store, in a hot sauce store with hundreds of choices, or even in a grocery store that's got a little specialty section. Being able to grab that instant eye appeal is very important. So while it doesn't have to do with flavor and everything else, it does have to do with giving feedback to the maker on viability. Then once you crack it open, I look at the consistency. Is it going to be thin? Is it going to be thick? I look for a Louisiana style sauce or a cayenne vinegar based sauce to be that thin look, to have that nice, bright reddish look of those cayenne and serrano peppers, and or a pleasant green consistency and look for a jalapeno based sauce or a verde sauce of some sort. So look at that, and then of course, smell and flavor, and then you look at the flavor and, and heat. And I don't know about you, Scott, but I have a hard time in heat ratings for sauces that really aren't as much about the heat as they are about their flavor. The scale gets very subjective. Most folks work off of a 5-point scale. I toyed with the thought of going to a 7-point scale for my reviews, but then, most everybody else does a 5. So I thought I'd maintain consistency. And, it's 5 is super hot, or is it flavor and heat layering? For Ken Alexander, I look at how a maker uses their heat, not just the heat level itself. If you look at a sauce that does a really good job that uses multiple peppers that layers their heat. They put a red pepper cayenne serrano front end. It's that front tongue, kind of a sweeter heat, hits very quickly, doesn't last very long. And then you've got that mid-heat habanero that for me hits mid-tongue, mid-palate, has a more lingering, fruity feel to it. And then you've got, when you get into the jalokias and the scorpions and the high-end heat peppers that have that delayed, for me, that full throat, delayed hit back of tongue. And as depending on what the sauce is, how they layer that heat and how it hits and how long it hits, I think has a big bearing in the sophistication of a sauce for a maker.
Yeah, definitely. In my personal opinion, I think the heat and the taste and all that should be described separately, but in the same kind of way that you describe. It's like, tell the viewer or tell the blog reader how the heat hits you. Mm-hmm. And I think you and several other written reviewers do an excellent job of doing that, to where, you're not able to really see somebody do a written review, but you can still kind of get all those sensations if they describe it adequately.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. And I know that you've been at this a lot longer than I have, but for me, that's the hunt. That's the game, is how do you describe a sauce to where somebody just from reading it can actually maybe get a feel for how that sauce is going to work for them and how it plays. That's why, I like to talk about, is it a straight heat? Is it a simple heat? Is it a complex layered heat? So they kind of get that flavor. And then, the versatility of a sauce is the other thing. Is it a single use? Is it just a Mexican taco sauce? Is it a standard table sauce? Is it, something that's got a little more, wide range of use? It's like, for a lot of the fruit-based sauces, I like to, especially, almost any sauce really, kind of one of my things that I've started, that I've done, is I make a salad dressing pretty much with every hot sauce I review. Either I'll mix it with an existing salad dressing, especially if it's a cayenne-based, kind of that Louisiana-style sauce, or I'll play with it and make my own. Kind of a sneak preview. I'm finalizing prep and work on a review for one of Steve Seabury at High River Sauces, his Grapes of Wrath sauce. And there's been a couple of reviews out there on that. And it's a seasonal sauce for him. One of the first things I did is I made a salad dressing with it.
Very interesting. Yeah, I tasted it. Has a nice kind of citrusy dominance, not citrusy, a berry-like dominance to
Yes.
it. And, personally, I've been trying to find, what does this really go good on? But, I may have to take your advice, read your review when it's done, and try it on a salad.
I used it with just a touch of chili infused extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of cracked black pepper, just a dash of sea salt, mixed it, and I used the olive oil just to kind of spread it out a little bit. And I didn't use any extra vinegar with this one, and put it on and put it with a little bit of grated cheese and stuff that you put on a salad. And it was excellent. Not all sauces will work that way, but that's one way I'd use to kind of get a different take on a sauce. The other thing I did is I put as many as I can on vanilla ice cream to see how does it play with cool and sweet. And that's one way for me to just kind of play around with that. Some of them obviously don't work at all, and I never count it against a sauce if it doesn't. That's not their design unless they're labeled as a dessert sauce. But if they do, I think sometimes it's worth mentioning that, hey, Tracy Carter's raspberry chipotle sauce is one of my favorite things to put on vanilla ice cream. Steve's Grapes of Wrath was another excellent sauce that I thought had a really good application mixed with ice cream with that berry feel to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and those berry sauces. So, I look at all of that, and then, I'll use it over a course of a few weeks or even longer sometimes, just depending on what's on the menu at home. And I put it as glazes on, it's the standard chicken, pork for me at home, chicken, pork, vegetables. That's fish. Those are the staple things we eat. I don't eat a lot of red meat at home. I do eat, I eat some soy-based stuff. I'm, kind of being healthy, these days. And so I do Boca burgers but I'll do, steak and some beef or some, pulled pork and not just always pork tenderloin. And so I try to put it on those things in addition to your standard pizza, tacos, nacho chips, those type of items, and to give a sauce something that I would think would be a standard pairing, as well as kind of stretching the limits of those pairings to something that I want a reader to say, hey, hot sauce can be more than just something to put on tacos and nachos.
Exactly. You could find a hot sauce for anything and anything for a hot sauce out there. That's my belief.
That's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it. And so that's, pretty much, I know in my video reviews for I Love It Spicy, I've had some comments and some feedback that I'm, that sometimes I'm considered a tough reviewer because I don't, it's a 5-point scale, and it's unusual for me to give a 4 or better. It's very unusual for me to give a 4 or better. And I find that it's at 80-20 and kind of that bell curve of sauces. I think most of the sauces, probably 2/3 of sauces out there are going to fall in that 3 out of 5 rating, whether you're rating a star or a heart or a fiery world or whatever it is. And that's kind of the average mark for a sauce. If it's a decent table sauce, that's got some, some good versatility, some decent flavor, some use, it's basically somewhere 2.5 to 3. 3.5 is a sauce that I would buy again. I don't give a sauce a 3.5 rating unless I would definitely buy that sauce a second time and pay money for it. And then it's got to be something that I would want on a standard rotation for me to give any higher than that.
And you are someone who has done both written and video reviews. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy behind both. I think, my personal opinion, you do both rather well. What do you think are some of the deficiencies of both doing a written and a video review? What are the positives and the negatives?
I think the positives, and I don't think I do a very good job with this because I'm not very tech savvy. In a video review, what I would really like to see more in the video reviews that are out there is using the products and seeing, in a video editing, seeing somebody cook with the product, to where it gives that added visual for the viewer. That's something I think that most of those of the video reviews are lacking, mine included. I think that the positive of the video reviews, or for me, is you get to connect with someone. People are video based. They like to watch. So I think that's an inherent positive. It's kind of like turning on the TV for them, and so it's easy. They get to see the sauce. They get to see the label. They can recognize it when they go in the store. And maybe that visual sticks with them a little easier than just a static picture on a page on a blog. So, I kind of look at moving into the written reviews, and this is where, I learned from others, and especially I've kind of my formatting for pictures. I learned a lot from Brian and Marilyn Mayer. When I did my first written review for them a year or so ago, I went and looked at a lot of their reviews and saw how he used a clear spoon. He used a white bowl. Different, they use things that would showcase a sauce. And so I emulate that, because I thought that was very smart and very true to a product that gave a great representation. And so, and actually asked Brian if he minded when I started, fieryworld.com, if he minded if I copy that style in my pictures. And of course, Brian and Marilyn, being the folks they are, he says, "Oh no, go for it. That's a great compliment."
Yeah.
So So, I think that the downside is sometimes people don't want to, they don't want to read, or if the review rambles too much, if it doesn't hit the points that the reader wants to see, it can leave them a little more confused. But, like yourself, I like to write, and I like the video. I think both have good uses and are good creative outlets. And depending on the person, they'll hit both audiences. So, I think there's a place for a sauce to have both a written and a video review.
And if just you as a chili head, just you as a fan, could only read or view one type of review for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, gosh, put me on the spot. Okay, Buddha. If Buddha hears this, he knows I love him. For me, it would be a written review. If it's a well-written review, it's something I think that takes that time and the descriptors that are there. I like to read the reviews. Maybe it's because I'm a little more old school. If you ask my 23-year-old son, who grew up in the video age, or anybody under the age of 40, they'd probably tell you a video review is better for them. But for me, I like the written reviews.
I do as well. And it just, for so many different reasons, we could probably talk, hours and hours about this. But just the fact that, you can skim a written review, you can go to certain parts of it that you like very easily. You can get the gist of if somebody likes a sauce or not within 90 seconds, whereas a video review, you don't know where to fast forward through the video, and you have to wait for the whole thing to load up, all that kind of stuff. But, video reviews, they're very popular. I'm not going to completely trash them or anything. They have their purpose. They have their usage. But, I tend to agree with your viewpoint on that.
Oh, great. Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And the fact that that I like to write, I think puts some sort of bias on that. So, kind of in a nutshell, that's how I look at my reviews, and I make notes. I'll sit at the dinner table, or my wife will say, "Hey, honey, I'm working up a review. Let's cook this." And she's very accommodating. She's not a chili head, but she's very accommodating in saying, "Okay, what do you want to cook?" And we'll work something around what I need to do for the review. Or if she's not in the mood, I'll cook my own, and she'll, do whatever she wants. So I've done that as well. Anyway, that's pretty much how I set up and work a review. Like I said, it's a several week long process for me. First, when I first started for Buddha, I was trying to knock them out in a day or two, and just after a few, it just didn't feel like I was being as fair as I could have been. I use a product, I let it sit for a few days without using it, then I use it again, then I use it again, and that seems to have found its home in my style and method.
Excellent. Well, where could everybody find you, Ken?
They can find me at fieryworld.com. Blog is there. You'll see a couple of reviews posting up this week. That's out there. Like I said, I'm working up and writing up some reviews for Steve Seabury. You'll see a review by the end of the week coming up for Rogue and Grapes of Wrath. And then I think actually I've got a book that I was sent to review, an ebook. And so I think for our next segment, I think your listeners, speaking of reading, might get a sneak preview about a really cool little ebook that's out there about cooking with spice and how to make some spice.
Excellent. Looking forward to it, Ken. Well, thank you as always.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, Scott. I look forward to hearing the spot and all the great segments that are on the weekly Firecast. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, always remember that it's a fiery world. Thanks again.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
My interview subject this week is Jack Waiboer of GrateTV, which is one of the best and longest-running video podcast shows on the internet that covers the whole world of barbecue and grilling. He hails from the Low Country region of South Carolina. Many say that it's the birthplace of American barbecue. Jack is also the Pitmaster at Kraft Foods. He's the founder of the Carolina Pitmasters Barbecue School and a big part of the Southern BBQ Network. So there's a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get right to the interview.
Hey, Jack. How's everything going with you?
Doing great. How you doing, Scott?
Can't complain. You're involved with so many different projects right now. As far as a barbecue person to have on this podcast, you are on my short list of people to talk to right away. So I There's a bunch to talk to you about. First of all, I wanted to find out a little bit more about you. What is your culinary background? Now, how did you get hooked into barbecue?
I got interested in cooking, and specifically live fire cooking, when I was about 10 years old. I'm a product of the Boy Scout organization, and my dad was a Scoutmaster, and we camped out every single month without fail. We were earning some cooking awards, and we had to learn how to make good fires. And when I say good fires, I mean using coals to cook with. I really enjoyed the success I had with live fire cooking, and especially Dutch oven cooking. And it gave me a skill that none of the other kids were really all that interested in. Kids were, more interested in running around and playing sports, but I really kind of got hooked into the cooking aspect of what was going on. I loved to cook, and my mother was really, really good at it. She kept me tuned in, and all the while tuning me in, she taught me all the different styles, and I learned everything that I could from her, from traditional American comfort food, Cajun, Southern, Pacific Rim. I love them all, and I love to cook them all. I wanted to go to culinary school after high school, but it really wasn't in the cards for me. I did stay in school, and I got my degree, all the while working in kitchens for a little extra, a couple extra bucks.
Mm-hmm.
When I graduated from college, I went straight into the restaurant business, and I craved the opportunity to create great-looking and great-tasting food, and I love the pressure and fast-paced environment of that business. To jump ahead a few years, I read a book and met a fellow named John Willingham. John told me that smoke was really nothing but airborne dirt, and that you needed a clean fire to use the essence of the wood to give your food great flavors. Now, there was a connection in there for me, and I understood what that connection was all about because of the work that I had done, in the Boy Scouts and coals and try to figure out how to manipulate a fire to be able to cook good food over a live fire grate. I took that knowledge and I used it as a basis for cooking in a pit right from that point forward. I won numerous grand championships, 3 state championships, the 2011 National Best of the Best Whole Hog title. I continue to learn everything a guy's got to know about the combination of wood, fire, seasoning, and smoke. I'm not really trying to reinvent the wheel, but I really took the time to understand the wheel. My rules are kind of simple. I'm all about using simple tools, basic ingredients, common sense methods, putting those all together to create quality, all-American barbecue, and presenting those delicious combinations simple and craft.
And you hail from the low country area of South Carolina. Now, how is that important to barbecue overall, and how has it influenced your own personal outdoor cooking?
The low country, we like to say the low country is the birthplace of American barbecue. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Originally, the Spanish settlers came over and they landed in the islands right off Hilton Head. When they originally got in, they actually saw the Indians cooking their game, their catches over open pits, and it interested them. On subsequent voyages later on in years, the Spanish actually brought hogs to America. They're the ones who were responsible for bringing hogs to America. They were easy. You could bring the hogs in, turn, root around, get their own food, and all you had to do was hunt them up and kill them. Well, when you put the open pit together with the hogs, well, you naturally have the birth of classic American barbecue. In South Carolina, whole hog is king. It probably always will be. Pork is king here. And that is really how barbecue, whole hog barbecue, was born in America. The Low Country actually has its own style of barbecue. If you know anything about South Carolina barbecue, the segments, the state is kind of segmented off. The Germans actually settled central South Carolina, and they brought in that mustard influence that's here that South Carolina is really famous for. There's an area called PD, which is up around the Myrtle Beach area, where they have a really hot, peppery vinegar sauce. And as you travel west in the state, it turns into a more sweet tomato sauce. But here in the Low Country, they actually have their own style, and it's generally ignored. They had a lot of plantations here in the early days. They grew rice, tomatoes, sugarcane. They had a lot of honey around here, and they had those Caribbean-style peppers that are prevalent to the islands off the coast, Scotch bonnet, and those kind of peppers that are there. And they're really what they call traditional Gullah flavors. So when you combine rice vinegar, tomatoes, cane syrup for a sweetener, and honey as a sweetener, bring in those Caribbean-style hot peppers to dominate the flavor, you really come up with a very unique, very indigenous style of barbecue that's right here in the Low Country.
Very cool. And you're also the Pitmaster at Kraft Foods now. Now, what exactly do you do for them, and then what is Kraft's involvement in barbecue?
You know, Kraft, I'm involved in the wholesale business for Kraft. I travel around to large food shows, Cisco, U.S. Food, those kind of things, and we cook barbecue. Take, for instance, Los Angeles, the largest food show on the West Coast. We actually cook the whole hog in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Literally stop the show there. They're not really all that familiar with whole hog barbecue. West Coast is more tri-tip, that kind of a flavor. They really don't understand what's going on as far as barbecue goes. So we produce this whole hog. If you want to see a picture of the hog, it's the Carolina Pitmasters Facebook page header. And it's a beautiful hog. And we took that hog, paraded it through the show, literally stopped the show dead in its tracks. They came from everywhere. Photographers, TV cameras, everybody came around to see what we had produced. And then we took it back to our area. Of course, we had a booth there. We took it back to our area, and we actually sampled that particular pork with Kraft barbecue sauce on it, with the sauce of that design, to be able and kind of got people tuned into pork and Kraft barbecue sauce and try to bring people, back together again with Kraft barbecue sauce. We cooked hog in Phoenix as well. We cooked Boston butts in San Francisco, all with the same thing in mind, cooking pulled pork, sampling pulled pork with Kraft barbecue. And then we ended up the year at the World Food Championships, taking care of the Rib Fest at the World Food Championships in Las Vegas, where we had probably what I would consider to be the ultimate barbecue experience. We were selling ribs right on Las Vegas Boulevard in front of Bally's. Incredible experience. We had a great time. We sold just about 3,000 racks of ribs in front of Bally's on Las Vegas Boulevard. And we ended up at the World Food Championships cooking ribs for the Rib Fest there in San Francisco, or in Las Vegas. So we really had it's really all about traveling with Kraft. Kraft, uses the personality and uses my knowledge. I got an opportunity to create a sauce for Kraft. It's all about Kraft being traditional flavors, traditional barbecue. Kraft more or less invented barbecue sauce. If you really think about what it's all about, they've been in homes for generations. My mother had Kraft in her shelf. My mother's mother had Kraft in her shelf. I remember going to my grandmother's pantry and there being a bottle of Kraft sauce there. This particular idea of the sound flavors, the traditions of what barbecue sauce has been all about for years and years and years and years. Of course, Dad was out there, cooking chicken on the grill, and he was using Kraft barbecue sauce as well. They hit the segment right on the nose. They had great flavor. They held up well on the grill, and it was probably the least expensive sauce on the shelf. If you go to the grocery stores now and take a look at who's in the grocery store, where they're positioned, and what's going on, and the prices that are involved, Kraft they are the largest barbecue sauce producer in the world, and I just consider myself to be one of the luckiest guys on the planet to be able to work with the great people at Kraft. I made a sauce, or I developed a sauce for them called it's called Kraft Pitmaster's Choice. So I invented a sauce called Kraft Pitmaster's Choice, and that was all about bringing championship quality to people in the restaurant businesses and people in the large feeders to be able to bring great barbecue to the forefront. People are expecting a lot of different things in barbecue right now. Competition barbecue has changed the whole market share of what's going on in barbecue these days. People are going into restaurants and they're expecting, because they're attending these shows, or people are going into restaurants and large feeders because they're attending barbecue competitions and they're tasting great barbecue. They're expecting restaurants and feeders to be able to deliver that particular product. So Kraft asked me to use a sauce recipe that I've been using for years and years and years. And I've been using Kraft as a base in my barbecue sauce So they asked me to produce a product that had great flavor, that they could teach people in the large feeders to cook a better product and have a better tasting product that would be more appealing to what goes on in the restaurant businesses. And that is all about what I do. I'm a teacher and a trainer by trade. It really is what I do. And that's just a great opportunity to travel around and do what I love to do.
Excellent. Just to kind of ask you about that sauce, just being a big sauce and seasoning fanatic myself, after you developed that recipe for them initially, did they tweak it or do anything to change it themselves, or is it pretty much the same formula that you came up with?
No, actually, it's we call them extension stuff. So you use Kraft Original, and you add ingredients that are natural ingredients to kitchens and natural ingredients to pretty much everywhere. I did change it around a little bit. A lot of and I did this on my own. A lot of barbecue guys use apple juice, and they use it extensively as a thinner and a sweetener. And that's good, but I needed something that really kind of changed things around a little bit. So the idea was to use 4 basic ingredients. I used Worcestershire sauce, I used pure cane syrup, I used salt and pepper, and then I went ahead and added cranberry juice. And cranberry juice gives just everything a whole different feel to it. You want to use flavors when you're doing competition barbecue that people understand, and that's really, really, really how you get into a judge's head. They have to be recognizable flavors, and they have to be recognizable is probably the right word for it. So apple juice is extremely recognizable. You can drink apple juice after you got off of mother's milk, she probably stuck apple juice in your face, and that's pretty much what it was all about.
Yeah, probably.
But so it's a smart idea to use apple juice, but cranberry juice is right in there behind that. And if you really think about what's recognizable and what it's really all about, cranberry juice follows right along. The flavor is extremely recognizable and extremely pleasant. So it has done well. It's done well in my competitions. In my competition game, it's the sauce we use on pulled pork. It does well pretty much everywhere we take it. And I got to tell you, we used it in Seattle at a big food show in Seattle, and they loved it. And LA was the same way, and so was Phoenix. It's really doing a great thing. So really what we're doing is we're selling Kraft barbecue sauce, and we're asking people to come back to Kraft because Kraft has been there, and people kind of got away from Kraft. Now we're saying, you know what? You don't have to go away from Kraft to be a champion. You can come back to Kraft. You can extend your sauce. All of these things are there in your kitchens already, especially if you're a large feeder. All those things are in your kitchen already, especially cranberry juice, especially if you're in food service. Cranberry juice is probably on your bar gun, which is one of the reasons why I selected it.
Very interesting flavor profile, I think, that it would add to it. So, yeah, it's interesting that you'd mention that.
We're going to take a little break right now, but we'll return to the second half of this interview right after these messages.
Are you following the following podcast? There's never been a mission more critical. Join the Two Guys Talking following now by accessing thefollowingpodcast.com and become one of the following today. Followingpodcast.com. Thefollowingpodcast.com.
Having a friendly, relatable voice can mean all the difference in your marketing efforts. Let Scott Roberts' voiceover be that voice. I can give you the goods, whatever your need is, whether it be for commercials, podcasts, voicemail phone systems and on-hold messages, business presentations, websites, audiobooks, and more. If you require a personable, real, down-to-earth voiceover artist, then look no further. You can find out more at scottrobertsvoice.com.
Two Guys Talking is proud to be using Heil Thin microphones inside their podcast studios in St. Charles, Missouri, just outside St. Louis. Thin mics from Heil Sound aren't just providing great audio quality, they're fun. With glistening blue LEDs in each, they are true technological centerpieces and help Two Guys Talking make the mark inside the podcast industry. Are you familiar with Heil microphones? Check out all the details now at heilsound.com. That's HEIL sound.com. And learn why Two Guys Talking uses and succeeds with the best microphone technology. Heil Sound, laying down the best audio tracks at the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
For a second chance. TwoGuysTalkingPoker.com. I'm Vic Porcelli, that's one guy. And Big Slick, a.k.a. Andy Kazin, he's the other guy. Hiya.
Hey, that's Mick.
You know, Andy and I catch some hot hands when we're playing poker, but if you want to talk about hot sauces, chili peppers, any food with real heat, it's Scott Roberts and the Weekly Firecast on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
And we are back, and here's the second half of the interview. Well, anyway, before we get to some of the other projects that you're involved in, I just wanted to ask you personally about cooking and grilling and smoking throughout the wintertime. Now, a lot of fair weather outdoor cooks, they put away their grills and smokers, once the weather starts, the temperature starts dropping, it starts snowing. But, of course, thousands of hardcore barbecuers, keep cooking it up and grilling outside. What have you personally been doing the past couple months?
Well, I'm lucky living in South Carolina. The weather really doesn't affect us. We actually trade out these days of the dog days of winter for the scorching hot days of summer. It is not an enjoyable experience in South Carolina to be barbecuing in 120-degree weather when you have, or 100-degree weather when it's 100% humidity outside. So those are our miserable days. You don't find a lot of guys out there, in the southeast barbecuing up during the really, really dog days of summer. But now, today, it was 72 and sunny here in Charleston. So I was out on the grill today making, I made hamburgers today, special hamburgers, content for GrateTV. I did a outdoor jambalaya. I'm constantly producing good content for GrateTV. That's one of the things that I really enjoy doing. And of course, we do get those cold days. And I like to smoke cheese, especially in South Carolina. This is the opportunity where we can use weather to our advantage when it gets a little bit cooler out, and we can create cold smoke. So we can do some cured sausages outside. We can smoke some cheese. If you want to stay inside, we still got the Boston butts around. You can grind those up and make the sausages out of them and stay indoors. So it's really great. I mean, I'm cooking ribs and pork butts just like you would on a fine spring day. It was a beautiful day here today.
Now just rub it in. Here in Missouri, it's all over the place. I mean, you could have all four seasons within 1 week. Today, I don't think it was too bad here in the St. Louis area. It was like 50 degrees. But, yeah, we've had some really just bone-chilling days. And, admittedly, I don't want to go out every day that's like that. I try to, as long as it's not precipitating.
The hard part about the wintertime grilling is you're really working against Mother Nature. You got you're producing BTUs in your cooker, and as long as Mother Nature is not trying to steal that from you, then you're doing well. But if bone-chilling cold weather is knocking up against your cooker, if you don't have an insulated cooker, you can't keep Mother Nature away from it. All she's doing is stealing the BTUs out of your metal. You can never get hot. You can produce as much fire as you want in your cooker, but it's just not going to get the metal just not going to warm up and get hot, and you really can't create that constant temperature balance that you need, especially with the smoke and everything just kind of balancing your cooker so everything is working just the way you need it to work. When there's 0-degree weather pulling all the BTUs out of your cooker, it's hard to do.
Very true, very true. Now, I want to ask you about some of the other projects now. Great. You're involved with the Carolina Pitmasters Cooking School. Now, what is that exactly, and how do you think it's different from other cooking schools?
Well, I was doing a lot of competing in barbecue contests in South Carolina, and I was really doing quite well at it. I joined the South Carolina Barbecue Association, and I really had two goals in mind. The first one was to market the idea that South Carolina was the birthplace of American barbecue. The second one was to improve competition barbecue in South Carolina in general. The first was easy because it's more or less an indisputable fact that American barbecue was born right here in the Low Country. But the second, that was going to be a little bit more involved. South Carolina competition cooks, when I first got into the game, really didn't understand the standard, and they really didn't know what the standard was. They were kind of flipping around. They really didn't have a whole big direction to go in. So when I was judging, the most asked question I got when I was, what do judges look for? I mean, that was it right there. Now, the Carolina Barbecue Association, I don't think is 10 years old. The specific date, but it's probably 7 or 8 years old. So competition barbecue, organized competition barbecue, really hasn't been in South Carolina all that long. So I help and train judges at the South Carolina Barbecue Association for years. We helped communicate standards. We helped them understand what texture was all about. We helped them understand taste. And we needed to get them to realize that just because your personal preference wasn't being presented didn't mean it wasn't great barbecue. So if you don't like something personally, if you don't like mustard sauce, and a lot of people don't care for mustard sauces, just because somebody put a mustard sauce on the barbecue didn't necessarily mean that it wasn't great barbecue. It could be a great mustard sauce, but you have to put your personal preferences aside and realize that what the cook did with that particular piece of meat or that particular flavor profile was well done, and they need to be rewarded for that. That was a hard thing to do, but we did it, and we trained and trained and trained and helped communicate those standards. And after we got the judges all kind of settled into judging to a standard and realizing that, great barbecue and how to recognize great barbecue, then it was time to do the cooks. And so I got the idea that we could start training cooks here in South Carolina, so we kind of created our own market, so to speak. And what we needed to do was train the cooks to cook to the standard that the judges were looking for. Mm-hmm. So I got together with a couple of guys, and I got together with a guy named Tim Handy and a few others, and the idea was to put the best pitmasters in South Carolina together in one place and teach barbecue. So, and that has been our goal all along. We bring together the best pitmasters that we can find in South Carolina to teach techniques of making great competition barbecue. We've graduated just a ton of grand champions out, including J.T. Handy, Charles Fretwell, Dennis Dill, just to name a few. Joining me on this year's instruction team, CPM graduate Mike Fields, who cooks with me at Mike's Catering. We'll have Russ Cornett from Qology, Seth McCarry from Summer Swine. And the really great thing, the really coolest thing you hear about Carolina Pitmasters is once you're a Carolina Pitmaster, you're a Pitmaster, so you can come back in subsequent years. You can't come back. You can come back, but you have to contribute. So all those graduates and all those guys that have been through, all the champions, all come back second week of March, and a big, huge exchange in barbecue that happens right in Somerville. It's really cool because the 2012 Sam's Club contest in North Charleston, all 4 category contests were won by Carolina Pitmaster graduates. And that is just a great, I'm so proud of that, I can't tell you how cool that is. We teach all 5 categories: butts, ribs, chicken, brisket, whole hog. It's actually a hands-on class. You get to prepare meat, and we break the teams down into a competition environment. Everybody's on a team, and everybody gets to prepare and cook the meat. And then on Saturday, we bring in the most qualified judges in the area we can find from as many different barbecue associations as we can get a hold of. A lot of judges are cross-trained in South Carolina and other sanctionings, KCBS, SCBA, SBN. So we get them together, and then on Saturday we have an open judging where we prepare samples. We turn the samples into the judges, and then the students can actually watch the judges, ask the judges questions about how they feel about what's going on. And the really cool thing about it is the judges can actually ask the cooks questions about what they did and why they did it that way, so everybody gets to learn on both sides. That answers the question right there. What are judges looking for? If you want to know what judges are looking for, there's the opportunity right there.
Excellent. And I think a lot of competitors are really looking for that kind of information.
It is, without a doubt, the most unique barbecue experience. It's the most unique class, and it's the only one of its kind that I know of that is running that kind of a format. And it just, we actually have to keep it small. We only take about 20, and because there's just so much going on. There's so much information being exchanged, and there's so many people there. It is just, it's unbelievable. It really is. It's as unique as it can be. I hope it never goes away. I hope it goes on in perpetuity. I hope my kids take over and do this all, because it really is. It's the best learning experience. I learn everything. I'm the guy running the thing, and I learn something every year. So.
Oh, very cool. To pass it down from generation to generation.
One can only hope.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to also ask you about GrateTV, which is an excellent video show that you're a co-host of. Like I told you before, I was a huge fan of it back when you guys called it Meatheads TV. Right. Now, how did you hook up with Billy West, and how did you get the show started?
Well, the whole GrateTV is actually the brainchild of Bill West. A few years ago, I was looking for a way to be able to promote Carolina Pitmasters out in the market area. Bill at that time was the program director at WEZL Radio, which is a local country station here. They were a Clear Channel station, and their Billboard Top 100, I think, is what they call it. But anyway, Bill is a barbecue nut. He really is. What I did was I offered to give someone at Clear Channel WEZL a free entry into Carolina Pitmasters if they would organize some way for me to be able to get my name out in the local community. And they did that. We had a little Valentine's drawing where we had a couple of people win entries in, but it just so happened that Bill was one of the ones who somehow or another landed in Carolina Pitmasters, and he took the class, and he really, really enjoyed himself. He had a great time with the class. And at the end of the whole experience, he asked me if I was interested in doing something barbecue-ish as far as internet podcast goes. Mm-hmm. Now, it was about 2 years later, Bill called me up, and we had a meeting, and we discussed the potential successes of internet entertainment. His view, and now my view, is it won't be long before a significant amount of video entertainment will be internet-based. GrateTV is the longest-running show dealing with live fire cooking, and we've kind of scheduled the content to be entertaining, knowledgeable, funny, if you want to call it that. We strive to present accurate information in short bites because we realize that you really can only keep somebody's attention on a video podcast for about 15 minutes. If you look at how TV is produced in general, usually bits of 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, then you break to a commercial, they do their thing, and then they come back to the show. So you really can't be doing a 30-minute video podcast because somewhere along the way, your viewer is going to get bored with what's going on. They're going to click off.
Yeah, very true.
It's just true. The internet numbers are climbing. Bill is a huge advocate of this. Not an advocate. He believes that radio itself is a shrinking market only because of the digital world and what's going on in the digital world today. A disc jockey can do a show from anywhere and send it from anywhere that they are. So there are very few disc jockeys sitting in radio stations these days. Most of these guys are in production spots somewhere. All they have to do is do their show and send it. So a disc jockey can work, he can work 4 or 5 shows or 6 shows or whatever it is, because they only do their shows now in 2-hour, 4-hour segments, and they send them along. So you don't have to be employed in a radio station. You can actually do it if you have the facilities and the equipment. You can do it right from your house. So he really believed that radio is a dying art, so to speak. It's just not there, and really truly believes that A, internet radio is going to be big, and B, internet video is going to be huge, and it's on the cusp of exploding. So he talked me into doing this internet podcast. It is a blast to do. If you watch the show, you know that I'm one of the ones that's out there having as good time as anybody is as far as what we're doing and the content that we're presenting. It's doing really well. The viewership is growing and growing and growing, and we're about to put out a push right now to start making it into a viable revenue stream. Bill and I don't get paid a nickel to do it. We don't have a sponsor. We're out there doing it because we enjoy doing it, number one, and we truly believe that we're building something special out of it. So, but the views are rising, and we are getting some interest in people coming along and being part of the show. And what we're not really sure of is if we expand the show time-wise and start adding commercial things into it, it'll hurt what we're doing. We certainly don't want to damage the show and what we're trying to present and what we're doing. We post a new show every Thursday on YouTube. It can also be viewed on the Outdoor Cooking channel on Wednesday and Thursday nights, and all day Sunday.
Excellent. But you guys have a great chemistry together. It's slick. It's beautifully edited, and it's only gotten better and better.
Yeah, and that's all kudos to Bill. I'm the guy that's got the content knowledge, if you so to speak. We get together and he says, "What do you want to cook?" or "What do you want to talk about?" or "What do you want to do?" I'm the one that says, "Well, I think this would be cool," or "That'd be cool." But Bill's the one that says, "That's cool, but this would really be cool." I don't know if you saw the Summer of Extreme barbecue or not, but when we were out there blowtorching steaks and dropping, we kind of what we call cannonball cabins, where we everybody on Looney Tunes for a Christmas party and everybody over. He's like, that's a great idea. Let's cook all the Looney Tunes characters on GrateTV, and we did, and we had a blast doing it. And it's just fun.
And it's a blast to watch, and I recommend everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a huge barbecue or grilling fanatic. If you're a foodie, it's a great, well, I'll just say a great watch. And it's not too long, like you said. It's, I think when there's shows on YouTube and video shows wherever they're at, even in podcast downloadable form, yeah, you can't have it too terribly long. It's not like you're sitting in front of the TV. It's much different when you're watching it on your iPhone, your computer screen, your tablet, whatever. You need more quicker, shorter bites, and you guys are able to optimize all that time, but not have it be where it seems like it's dragging on for way too long.
I can tell you it's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to present the content that we present in 10, 12, or 15-minute bites. The equipment is interesting. We've expanded equipment over the years. We do the whole show on two Canon T3Is, which are Canon Rebel T3Is, and we use iPads and flips on occasion just to be able to create movement within the show itself. So when the editing comes down, we can go from camera to camera. We're still learning as we go. There's no doubt about that. And of course, we never plan to be perfect. But it is real, and it is what it is. So,
well, I'd also like to talk to you about the Southern BBQ Network. How did you get started with that?
The South Carolina Barbecue Association was having some difficulty taking care of smaller contests. They just weren't able to get judges into smaller contests. The cool thing about some of the things that I do, I'm a working mason and a working shriner. On top of all the other stuff that I do, I go out and raise money for a lot of different causes, and hospitals for children is right at the top of my list. The SCBA really couldn't handle smaller contests, and I got my partner Mike Fields, who has left cancer in 1994, and I saw a need to form an organization that could help the lower budget fundraisers get certified judges for contests. It was really a no-brainer. If a low budget contest, say the local library, wants to have a fundraiser, they really can't afford to go out there and get a big sanctioning organization to help them. Mm-hmm. But they still need to have certified barbecue judges to judge their contests. If you don't have certified barbecue judges judging contests, the cookers just won't show up.
Yeah.
The cookers want to be there. They want to help the local library raise money. But if you can't guarantee them a level playing field and you can't guarantee them standards to cook to, they won't do it. They don't want to spend the money, the $200, the $20 entry fee, or whatever it is. You could judge by the mayor. So there was a shrine. The shrine organization came to both Mike and I and asked us if we could provide certified barbecue judges for a few of the local shrine events that were out there going on. And of course, we will call it and said, yeah, sure, we can handle that. We produced it. We started an organization that actually got going only to get a list of judges together for event organizers to be able to call certified judges. But then it just kind of blew up from there. We decided we didn't want to be shrine-oriented. We wanted to be South Carolina or Southern-oriented, which is why it's called the Southern BBQ Network. And we went out and found the best people. One of the things that I truly believe in, you find the best people, surround yourself with the best people that you can find, and you'll be successful. And we went out and did that and found some great people and started this organization called the Southern BBQ Network. The cool thing about it is to be involved with the Southern BBQ Network and get sanctioning, you have to be involved with a charity. You can't have a fundraiser or you can't just have a barbecue, some KCBS contest, barbecue contest, thing that they're raising money for. They're having a barbecue contest. Somebody's making money and somebody's putting money in their pocket. To get SBN certification, you have to be involved somehow or another supporting a charitable organization. The weight in the Southern BBQ Network, as far as how the scoring goes, we sat around and talked about it. We're all a bunch of cooks, really, is what it comes down to. And we thought and still think that a lot of contests out there are flavor contests, which make them equivalent to being a sauce contest. So we went ahead and made sauce the second heaviest weighted category and made texture the heaviest weighted category. So a cook has to produce the cook first and then bring the flavor after that. So texture is the heaviest weighted score in an SBN contest. you got to know how to cook it before you can flavor it. And we think that's a whole different way to look at the whole segment about barbecue and what everybody else is doing as far as compared to what the SBN is doing. All SBN is volunteer. Nobody gets paid in the SBN. And we train, when we go out and do the training classes, we actually train in the cities where the contest is being held. So you don't go to, you can certainly attend the training class anywhere you want to attend it, but we feel as though if the town of Union, South Carolina, wants to raise money for whatever event that they're raising money for, they need to get the people in Union, South Carolina involved in the contest. So they need to open up a whole different way to bring in another segment of the community and get them involved in raising the money. And that way, year after year, when the contest did come around, the people who weren't actually cooking in the contest or going to the contest but wanted to be involved with it could judge. And it's been extremely successful for us. That whole idea of community involvement has just been super successful. Now they have a whole different outlook on what's going on. Fuel and the economy has just been killer, and a lot of people just can't get around and travel like they used to. So now you have a local pool of certified barbecue judges that are guaranteed to be in those cities year after year after year. And it's been a blast to put together. We've had a great time doing it. It's a wonderful experience.
Well, it sounds like a really good and unique spin to it, especially the whole charitable aspect of it.
Absolutely.
Now, personally, do you enjoy judging barbecue contests as much as you enjoy cooking and competing in them?
Yeah, I do. And really, it's all about people. You know, barbecue folks are the best on the planet. Everybody in the barbecue world, if you experience it all, they're very generous. They're very generous with their time, and they're very generous with their information. They're very generous with their money. It's a different segment. Cookers are their own little cult, if you want to call it that. They cook and they do their thing. And judges are almost exactly the same way. Judges like to hang out together. They like to do things as judges. And they like to be part of that whole business of barbecue. So it's really all about whatever you're interested in. I'm interested in people. I get more of a personal kick out of things watching somebody get something and be excited about things and get delighted with things that are going on in their life. That happens when you see a cook be successful, and it also happens when you see judges get together and they're successful. People get delighted. It makes me feel good.
And if people want to find out more information about the Southern BBQ Network, they can go to where?
Sure, you can go to sbbqn.com. Get in contact with any contest coordinator where there's an SBN contest being held. Contact an officer, and the officers are on the website at sbbqn.com. They also have a Facebook page, and someone will be more than happy to help you get enrolled in the training class, let you know where the next class is, and it's really a great experience.
Very cool. And, of course, I'll put that link in the show notes, along with all the other many links that we will mention here in the episode. We'll get to all your, Carolina Pitmasters, GrateTV, all that here in just a few minutes. Before we wrap up the call here, I want to go ahead and ask you, is there anything else that you've been working on that you'd like to talk about or promote? Anything new coming over the horizon for you?
There's always something happening where we sent an audition tape into Barbecue Pitmasters. We're hoping that gets together. I work closely with a fellow named Michael McDermott at Firecast Foods. He's launching in his little world, and we put together an audition tape to be able to do the Barbecue Pitmasters experience. So we're looking forward to hearing that from them very soon. Got that going on. Of course, being a working mason and shriner, I always have something going on in raising money, and my unit, my shrine unit, is actually the catering unit. We cater all the big events and get involved in 4 or 5 big projects where we feed 4,000 or 5,000 people over the course of the weekend. And that's always a joy to get involved with. It's always fun to watch good things happen, raise money. Besides that, GrateTV keeps me extremely busy. Getting ready to start the craft project off for 2013. Going to Boston hopefully mid-month, and then we're going to go to Tampa probably first week in March, and then we'll probably get a schedule after those 2 things on. We'll be traveling around and making appearances, and I really, really hope that, wherever we are, people will follow me around and certainly stop, shake hands, and I'd love to thank everybody I can thank for the support that they've given me throughout the time.
Very good. And as I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I will put the links to everything you're involved with in the show notes. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where to find you online?
Sure. Certainly, Jack Waiboer, that's Waiboer on Facebook. Jack Waiboer at gmail.com is how to get in touch with me directly. On Twitter, I'm FC Pitmaster, www.GrateTV.com. I am Jack at GrateTV.com. Carolina Pitmasters is www.carolinapitmasters.com, and the email address for that is carolinapitmasters@gmail.com. And certainly, if you can't get a hold of me in any of those situations, call you, and I'm sure you have my number laying around somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I'll throw up all the links there so everybody can just click away. You know, they don't have to necessarily be in front of a computer. The beauty of podcasting is, you know, you could do it while you're working out at the gym, while you're in the car, and you don't necessarily have access, you know, to go to the website right then and there. So
that's right.
That's why I provide that. Very good. Well, thanks again, Jack. I thank you very much for getting on the phone with me and just telling me all about your loves.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And a big thanks goes to Jack for taking the time out of his busy schedule to talk to me about all that. There were lots of links mentioned, and as always, I will put those in the show notes. So if you want to hit any of those links, simply go to weeklyfirecast.com or scottrobertsweb.com. Look for the entry for episode number 28 of the Weekly Firecast. Go down, and you can visit all those websites, plus the other websites that might be mentioned. For instance, the Chesterville Pepper Company. I'll put up the link to that as well. And last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and mention everyone who has reshared or retweeted the link to the previous episode of the Weekly Firecast. Now, episode 27, the previous episode, contained a great interview with Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns. So if you're unfamiliar with the process, anytime I post up a new link to an episode of the Weekly Firecast on Facebook and Twitter, as a matter of fact, in this case, Google+, I will mention your name or your company's name in the very next episode. It's a very cool way of getting your name out, especially if you're a company. Think of all the thousands of people that listen to this podcast. You will get your name mentioned. How cool is that? A little bit of free advertising. So anyway, starting on Facebook, here are the people who share the link. There was High Octane Sauce Company. There's Adam Furr of Endorphin Farms. There was Bonely Tadpole, whose sauce I reviewed last week. There was Boot Pepper of bootpepper.com. That's B-H-U-T pepper.com, just like Bootjalokia. There's Shauna Kearley of Kearley Seeds and Pepper Company. Thanks, Shauna. There's Steve Chambers. There's Patricia Galella King. There's also Lucky Dog Hot Sauce, who shared a link. There's Mike Simcoe of Ring Sting Hot Sauce. There was, of course, Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns. There was Firehead Thomas Gately. Steve Seabury of High River Sauces shared a link. Mike Eisenberg of Wicked Cactus Sauce. Jim Kirk of Captain Jim's Hot Sauces. My co-host over at the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network, Mike Wilkerson. And then there was Jim Duffy of Refining Fired Chilies. Thanks to everybody. And then retweeting the link on Twitter was Sean Mundell. His Twitter handle is @TGuzzler. There was James Haskell, and his Twitter handle is JD Haskell. And Midwest Chili Heads, and their Twitter handle is @MWCHS. And then sharing the link on Google+, there was a Salamander Sauce Company. And there was also John Good. Thanks again to everybody. So before I sign off for this episode, I just want to kind of give you a little sneak preview of what's coming up for the Firecast. There's going to be a lot more grilling and cooking and barbecue coverage. As far as the guests coming up, I already have interviews recorded with Steve Seabury of High River Sauces. He's going to talk about the upcoming New York City Hot Sauce Festival, or New York City Hot Sauce Expo, as it's called. Again, that's another new show with great potential. I mean, you have to think New York City, a giant metropolitan area, of course, the biggest one in the U.S. I mean, there is bound to be some type of interest in spicy foods, so he's going to talk quite a bit about that. And I just recorded an interview with video reviewer Brad Bishop. Now, wherever you fall on the whole video reviewer issue, You'll want to definitely tune into this because it's going to be a no-holds-barred interview because I cut straight to the chase. I ask him the questions directly, and Brad didn't pull any punches. He talks straight out about the criticisms, about some of the what I call jackass-style humor and a lot of the video reviewers, but he's a nice guy, great guy, and you don't want to miss it. That's coming up in, I believe, 2 weeks from now. So around the beginning of April 2013, you can look forward to that interview with video reviewer Brad Bishop. So lastly, I want to invite everyone to give me feedback on how you think I've been doing so far. Are there any guests you want me to review? Any topics you want covered? Any ways that you think that I suck? Of course, I would want you to say that in a nice, constructive way. But I invite any and all constructive feedback, both positive and negative. And to do that, simply go to the Weekly Firecast page on the Two Guys Talking Network. And to get there, just go to the numeral 2 guystalking.com/Firecast. And at this point, the contact link is on the left-hand side of the page. Scroll down, fill out the simple web form, and give me any and all feedback that you would have. Anyway, thanks to everybody for listening, for subscribing. So if you love what you hear in this or any other episode of the Weekly Firecast, please spread the word. If you know of chili heads and barbecuers, hot sauce fanatics, cooks, foodies, people who love the grill, people who love to munch on chili peppers, let them know about the show. So again, thanks to everybody. God bless everybody. And until next time, remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.